Namaste. Welcome to another edition of Navimash podcast. So, in the series of Navimash book talks, today we have with us Prince. Prince, he is a established journalist, author. He has written many books on business and business people who are entrepreneurs. And today we're going to talk about his latest book, the SIS Story. Okay. So, in this book, Prince narrates the story of Mr. I think forgot the person's name. Yeah, Mr. Ravindra Kishore Sinha. He is the founder of SIS Group. So I think not too many people know about SIS Group, what it does. So when I received the book, I was really surprised that okay, SIS Group is headed by or founded by somebody who was born in Patna in 1970s, 1974, and he was himself a journalist. So when I gone through the book and read the book, I was really surprised that I learned a few words as well, like social entrepreneur. Okay, that's a word now used a lot, but he was a social entrepreneur in 1970s India, and his motto for starting a business was to give back to society, help the people who needed help. So, namaste and welcome to the Nervous podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Namaskar.
Yeah. So, sir, something I think you are not very well known. You are well known in the business circles. You are a business journalist for very reputed media organizations. So, something about yourself, so that audience can know that whom we are talking to.
Sure. My name is Prince Thomas, and I've been a journalist for 22 years. I've been a business journalist. I have worked across media organizations from Business Standard, The Week, The Economic Times, the Dow Jones News Wire, Forbes, Hindu, Business Line, Money Control, and now presently I'm the managing editor at the Morning Context. Um, I have I like Mr. Sinha, Ravindra Kishore Sinha. I was also born in Bihar at that time, which was Bokaro. Right now, it's part of Jharkhand. When I was there, it used to be Bihar, and so I grew up there. Did my education in all parts of the country, and I also worked across the country. Um, I have written, like you said, I've written, this is my second book. My first book was also on a business theme. It was about second generation entrepreneurs. It's an interest for me because I've been writing about companies and about entrepreneurs in the last 22 years. I like looking at their strategy, looking at their management skills, looking at entrepreneurship. And that's what I found very exciting about both SIS and Mr. Ravindra Kishore Sinha and his son Rituraj Sinha. I think they have a very unique story here to tell. And yeah, that's why we are here. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, because I am also from the eastern part of India, but I have been
Sure.
living in South India for almost now for 13, 14 years. So,
I
but
see.
I originally was born in Kolkata. Okay. So I know a little
Acha.
bit about Bihar and also West Bengal and other places. I have been there. So I was actually surprised because when we are talking about entrepreneurship, businesses, big businesses, conglomerates, we generally talk about Maharashtra, Gujarat, or maybe even South India. So the culture of entrepreneurship is something which is not readily talked about, or it's not a very like a media thing when we talk about Bihar, UP, and West Bengal. So that area
Yeah.
is not well known for this.
Yeah.
So and that's a very surprise thing. And like I did not know because I like not a very business like I do not read a lot of business books itself or business papers. I really focus
Sure.
on sociology, sciences, and other things. So I was surprised that SIS employs about 3 lakh people.
That's correct.
3 lakh people it employs, and it has operations across the globe. Okay. And
Yeah.
this humble organization started by a journalist. Okay. And it started in 1970s. So I wanted to know while we are doing research, correct? 70s was a kind of correct a socialist era.
That's
So
true.
So in that socialist license Raj era, where like building a business was very, very difficult. So
Yeah.
due to the research, like could you just give us a glimpse that how a journalist who earned 250 rupees a month had
Hmm.
the audacity, the courage to actually start his own business, and he took inspiration from Jayaprakash Narayan,
That's
himself
right.
a socialist leader. So if you could
Yeah.
give a glimpse of his early career as an entrepreneur and how it actually started.
So, like you correctly said, now Ramendra Kishore Sinha was not someone from a business family. His father used to work in the Bihar Assembly, and he was a professional. He was a government employee, and growing up, Ravindra Kishore Sinha didn't have any inclination to become a businessman or an entrepreneur. Like you rightly said, it was the 1970s. He grew up in 1960s and 1970s, and that was the time for socialism. And the country was also going through a lot of political transitions. There was the war also, the Bangladesh war, where India intervened in favor of Bangladesh. So Ravindra Kishore Sinha, after doing his graduation, he became a journalist. He was a political journalist. He used to write on politics. He used to write on crime, and he covered this Bangladesh war. Now, it was during his political career that he came in touch with Jayaprakash Narayan. And as we know, Jayaprakash Narayan was one of the biggest political figures of those times, and he's very well regarded even today. And he was a very, very influential figure in the 1970s. Um, and between Ravindra Kishore Sinha and Jayaprakash Narayan, the relationship was of a mentor and a mentoree. So Jayaprakash Narayan was almost like his mentor. It so happened that after the war, and as Ravindra Kishore Sinha continued with his journalism, um, he used to write very well, and he used to write what he saw, the truth. A lot of time, the what he used to write wasn't appreciated by everyone, especially if it was slightly critical, and which was one of the reasons why he had to leave his job. Uh, and after leaving his job, he came to Jayaprakash Narayan, and Jayaprakash Narayan said that now that you don't have a job, why don't you do one thing? After the war, there are a lot of retired army personnel who are coming, and they don't have jobs. So can you help them get jobs? That is that one question that Jayaprakash Narayan had for Ravindra Kishore Sinha. And Ravindra Kishore Sinha said, yes, okay, I'll help them. And this was the birth of SIS. It was not to do business, it was not to make money, it was not to make profits. It was just an initiative, a very informal one at that time, to help retired army personnel to get jobs. And so he would license between army people and private companies, help them, these retired army people get jobs, find employment for them. It so happened that if you do something like this, you also have to follow some rules and regulations of the local government. And for that, you need a formal setup, which meant that he had to set up a company, he had to register, he had to file documents, follow the labor rules. So just to make sure that he's helping them properly, he started a company, he formalized things. So it was very so that's why we call him an accidental entrepreneur. It's not that he started off thinking that I have a product, I have a market, I think I can sell this product to a lot of people, I can make money. There was nothing like that. It all came out of an urge to do social good. And that's why, like you said, he was almost like a social entrepreneur. It just happened that as he started doing this work, as he after he founded SIS, he started placing more and more people, got them jobs, and got in touch with many industries. And then the business very slowly expanded, first within Bihar and then outside Bihar. But it was a slow progress, but it was an organic progress. He didn't have any MBA degree. He was not from a business family. He didn't have any lot of money to invest. But still, slowly but surely, he started building a business and expanding a business. Uh, but it was always with the motive or the aim to help people find jobs. And these were people who were either retired army people or youngsters who were finding it difficult to get jobs somewhere else. So that's how this whole thing started.
Yeah, very interestingly, correct. The concept of social entrepreneur is something which is new. It is not a very term which was used very much in the recent past. Now, correct, we have see a lot of like buzzword. It become a buzzword like a social entrepreneur. So you are doing something, making
Correct.
money while doing something good for the society. So, like as you are a business journalist, so if you can give us the audience a little bit of a idea, how do you differentiate between a normal entrepreneur who is there to make money and how do you define social entrepreneurship
Mhm.
versus general entrepreneurship or normal entrepreneurship, capitalism?
Yeah. When you say social entrepreneurship, it is about trying to do good for the people. It doesn't mean that entrepreneur otherwise doesn't do good. He is also catering to the need of people. There is some requirement that he is catering to. But here the motive is very different. A motive for a entrepreneur is to make profits, make money, bring in investors, scale the business as much as possible, expand. But when you are a social entrepreneur, your focus is on serving a very specific motive. It's not necessarily profit making. Making money is almost incidental. It is not the main objective. In case of SIS, the main objective was to help these retired army personnel and then later on youngsters get jobs. If SIS made money out of it, well and good. But then Randhra Kishore Sinha realized that if this company had to sustain, if it had to last, it needed to make money so that it could do its business properly, so that he can pay salaries, so that he's able to expand. So that became not the main objective, but to serve the main objective, he understood he needed to create a solid business. So that is the basic difference, I would say. And here, like we say in entrepreneurship today, there is a product. Say there is a even a biscuit brand, or there is a eyeglass brand. They all are targeted towards one specific consumer segment. It could be the young consumers. It could be the middle age. It could be the older. But so that is very specific, and they target their products towards that segment, and always try to make profit, try to make margins. So that's a very classic way of doing a business and being an entrepreneur. In the case of being a social entrepreneur, it was completely different. Yeah.
Understood. So, like, if I understand capitalism, how the
Yeah.
capitalist mindset works. So in that case, profit is the primary motive. We see in America and Europe, the profit motive. So, and
Correct.
this started in 1970s when the socialism was at its prime, especially in India,
Yeah.
because you also had
Yeah.
the Soviet Union there.
Yes. Yes.
So how do social entrepreneurs reconcile? Correct. So generally there's a perception that entrepreneurship is like it extracts wealth, it extracts work from the workers. So correct,
Hmm.
there is a from the socialism perspective, correct, the people who are doing business, who are entrepreneurs, they are perceived as a kind of, let's say, not so good people. Okay, so they are villainized in a way, correct. So
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
tell you about, correct, the 1970s when in 1977, the communists came to power in West Bengal. Okay. And from 1977 to 2011, when they were out of power, you had 60,000 factories closed down for various
Okay.
policies of the government. And also, you had closures. Factories were closed down by the workers' movement. Okay. And they were primarily led by communist policies and communist leaders.
Hmm.
So, when you're talking about this perspective, so do you think that communism or communist ideology is against entrepreneurs, against people who are doing business? And if that is the case, how do you reconcile these two parts, making profit and also helping people and helping society?
Yeah, that's why in the 1970s, when SIS was founded, if a company said it wanted to make profits, it was almost seen like like a like a wrong thing to do, like an evil thing to do. And profit was a bad word; it wasn't a good word. Um, and that's how it was from the 1970s and 80s. And that was the time when we had license Raj, and companies couldn't expand without getting permission from from the government. If you wanted to export or if you wanted to import, you wanted to set up a new company or you wanted to expand or you wanted to launch a product. For all of that, there was very lengthy and cumbersome process, which was very bureaucratic. And entrepreneurship wasn't seen as a very aspirational thing to do. And yes, communism uh, was also something like that, where all the industries were supposed to be government owned. There was no private enterprise. And that's what happened in West Bengal. A lot of it happened in Kerala also, which is my hometown, my home state. Um, and that is I think through the Soviet Union era, we have seen that this philosophy was kind of popular across the world, in many parts of Asia, in some parts of South America, even in Eastern Europe. But that evolution happened, right? So that evolution happened and the transition happened when the Soviet Union broke down in the late 80s. And I think since then, and then when the whole liberalization, privatization, and globalization happened in India also after 92, I think things have changed a lot. Today, being an entrepreneur is seen as something which is very aspirational. You have youngsters who are out of colleges who are setting up companies and startups. India is probably the second or the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. So things have changed a lot. But if you look at today's definition of a startup, and you have companies which started out of a garage, SIS also was almost like a startup in 1975 when it started, because it also started from a very small house, almost a small house in Patna, where Ravindra Kishore Sinha used to live, and which was also his office. And he used to recruit people in the lawn of his house. So it was a very, very startup kind of a informal kind of a setup. Uh, and, you know, today you have technology. Those days you didn't have technology. So a lot of things were manual. You had to do a lot of manual entry. You had to have a filing system for papers. It was very different, but basically it was almost like a startup of what we see today, very similar to what we see today.
Yes. So now we have to delve into his the early phase of his entrepreneurial career. So you
Yeah,
talked about family businesses. Okay, that family
yeah,
businesses like they have a tendency to actually degrade, or they will fall off the cliff after the second generation or third generation. So what
that's right.
really happened, and how Mr. Sinha and his son Rituraj actually
Mhm.
transformed the business and made it into a bigger and bigger company and organization. So if you can tell the audience about the family, because I know a lot of people who have their own family business. So
That's right.
what are the struggles of family businesses and how they are evolving in the current circumstances in terms of their survival, in terms of how business operates currently.
Yeah, so in security industry, and the primary job for SIS was to provide security personnel in industries, in factories, in mines, and later on, in after the 90s, when it expanded into Delhi and other parts of northern India, and then later to South India, they also had clients which were hotels, which were commercial buildings and offices. But the basic product was to provide security and security personnel. Now, security industry, if you see, is mostly consists of very unorganized small security companies. And these are almost like neighborhood companies. In every city, you will have hundreds of security companies. Now, SIS also started like that. And it also started in a very small scale. But over from 1970s to 1980s, then 90s and till 2000, Ravindra Kishore was able to slowly expand SIS. First, he from Bihar, from Patna, he went to other parts of Bihar. Then he went out of Bihar to Kolkata in West Bengal, and from there he went to Delhi. He got very important big clients like the ITDC, which had hotels all across India. Then there was Archaeological Survey of India, which also had a lot of monuments. So SIS used to supply personnel for them. And what also helped Ravindra Kishore Sinha was that he started a training academy in Bihar. Now, for a service in company in the 1980s, to start a training academy was unheard of. Today, it's a very normal thing to train your people. But if you think of back in 1985, uh, it was new for the Indian security industry. It was unheard of in the global security industry also. But what it helped was that the quality of service of SIS guards was much better than what was available in the industry. And that helped Ravindra Kishore Sinha to expand, to scale, go to other parts of the country. And each client, the requirement of a mine or a factory will be very different from a five-star hotel or from a monument or from an office building. So through this training academy, Ravindra Kishore Sinha was able to train his people according to the requirement of his clients. And that helped a lot to expand across. By 2000, SIS was about, it had become a business of about 20-25 crore in annual turnover. It was not very profitable. In fact, there used to be problems where, because this is, your money comes only when your client pays. So sometimes if the client delays money, you also run out of money. And there were months where SIS was not able to pay salaries for his employees. So there were tough times also in between. By 2000, it had become a 25 crore company. And it also happened that Ravindra Kishore Sinha had also a very social public life. And he had come to a stage where he wanted to spend more time in his public life and political life. And that is when he did two things. First, he brought in Uday Singh, who was his childhood friend, but someone who had kind of had a very great corporate career. He had worked in a lot of multinationals and Indian companies, and was regarded as a very very sound management person. So he brought in Uday Singh as a chief executive officer, and then his son Rituraj Sinha also joined the company. And this was around 2002, 2003. And this was a huge transition. Like you said, it is very seldom that a family business makes a successful transition from the first generation to second generation. It often happens that the businesses collapse because the transition is not planned, it is not well executed. But Ravindra Kishore Sinha was very good in that. First, uh, we have often seen that first time entrepreneurs, they are very reluctant to let go because it is their business, they have built it. So they are very reluctant to let go. But Ravindra Kishore Sinha was very mature. He gave Uday Singh a lot of freedom to operate, and he also separated his responsibility away from Rituraj. So Uday Singh became the chief executive officer of SIS. He also became mentor of Rituraj. So there was a complete separation between family and the business, and there was no intervention. And that really helped in making this transition successful. It was not easy because Uday Singh was new to the system. He was surrounded by employees who had worked with Ravindra Kishore Sinha for 20, 30 years, and he was a new person. Same thing with Rituraj Sinha. Rituraj Sinha knew that people will think that he is the owner's son, and because he is the owner's son, he gets an automatic power. But Rituraj Sinha realized that for everyone to have confidence in him, he had to prove himself. So those from 2002 to 2005, 6, 7, those were a very crucial period because they also had to show that SIS was beginning to do better, and they expanded. They actually expanded very well. Uh, SIS.
I think there is some network issue at Prince end. So we will talk about the book itself. Okay. So let me share how you will get the book. I have shared the book link as well. We'll wait for Prince to come. I think he has some network issue. So let me share how you will get the book till he is back. So, mm, so here is the book, The SIS Story: How an Accidental Entrepreneur from Bihar Created a Global Services Conglomerate. So, and the link is there in the chat as well. So you can go ahead and buy the book. It's a very interesting book because we seldom see stories like this where a journalist becomes an entrepreneur. And over the years, over the decades, that small initiative, a startup we can call, became one of the biggest employers in India with over 3 lakh employees. So it's going to people who are going to buy this book, they will get inspiration. Like nobody is small. You start small, but you become uh, what you become with your leadership qualities, with your effort, with your ethics. So, people who are watching this, please go ahead, buy this book. And we also have Prince back with us. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. There was
Uh,
some network disturbance.
yeah,
Yeah. So no, I was
yeah.
just talking about the
Mm,
transition. Yes, please go ahead.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
No, you finish it. Then I will ask my next question. Finish it.
Yeah, so that transition was very interesting in the way Randhir Kishore Sinha brought in a professional CEO, and then he made Uday Singh, the CEO, the mentor of his son Rituraj Sinha also, and then they slowly really built on the platform that Ravindra Kishore Sinha had made in SIS, and since then SIS has expanded from 25 crore in 2002 or something. Today it is 13,000 crores. So it has really grown exponentially. Yeah.
One more thing. So, as you mentioned, a service industry is difficult industry to work in because you are dependent on the revenue from your client, and that takes
Yeah.
time. Like if you have a security guard at the premises of an organization, they will pay you at the end of the month, and that payment sometimes gets delayed. So there is a cash flow problem which happens. So now this cash flow problem or the working capital needs are quite like a problem for small services companies. So if you can shed a bit of light, how they overcome this problem of cash flow and paying salaries on time, because a lot of people do face this issue in the industry itself.
Yeah, that is very correct. Security business is something that you can start with very little money. You don't need to have a lot of money to start a security business because there is no fixed asset. You are not creating a factory. You are not setting up huge buildings. But what you need is a small team to start with. And it also needs very little working capital. But what happens is that, like you said, there are clients who may pay or may not pay on time, and that is where your cash problem or cash flow gets stuck. And it so happened that many times over the years, there were instances or periods where SIS ran out of money to pay its employees, sometimes 2 months, 3 months at a time. And this is where I think the culture of SIS came through because even though there was no money, people used to stick around because Ravindra Kishore Sinha had developed such a culture within the company, and it was called a family culture. And he had a very personal connect with his people on the ground. He would go visit them in the sites. He used to live with them. He used to cook food, eat with them. In fact, he used to cook khichdi for them. So he had a very personal connect. And that is the reason why, despite them not getting salary sometimes for 1 month, 2, 3 months, these people would seldom leave the company and they would stay back. And they had the confidence that Ravindra Kishore Sinha will surely pay them. And it eventually happened like that. So till 2000, 2002, 3, there was this uncertainty there. But once Uday Singh and Rituraj Sinha came in, they focused a lot, especially Rituraj Sinha, in raising capital. And in the later on years, you will see that SIS was among the first companies in the sector to raise private equity. And then later on, it also went and listed on the Bombay Stock and National Stock Exchange and raised money. So in the first 20-25 years, there was some difficulty, but later on, it became much more better in terms of being able to have money, resources, in terms of paying its people on time. It became better. Yeah.
I take a cue from your answer. So you are talking about, correct, as a boss. Correct. In India, we say boss, people
Yeah.
who are the owners. Correct. So the owner himself is like creating a personal connection with the work, with the people whom he employs. So this human connection and this company culture. So is this something which is common among entrepreneurs or business leaders, or is it something which is comes from his ethos of social entrepreneurship, his connection, his mentor being Jayaprakash Narayan, who was a very people person. So do you think this his inclination towards building human relationships over money, okay, that something played a very important role in your perspective to actually build that kind of relationship with your employees? We normally don't see, correct, we normally don't see a CEO coming and eating or cooking for an employees.
That is true. That is very true. And yeah, it had to do with Ravindra Kishore Sinha. His personally, he had that connect. In management books, in businesses, they say that you should have a connect with your employees. You should go and meet them and get feedback from them. But Ravindra Kishore Sinha, like we discussed, he was not an MBA student. He didn't understand this. He didn't know about this management fundas, but he was going by his own inherent entrepreneurial skill that he had, the instinct that he had, and he realized that for a business like security, where your people are your main product, it was important to keep in touch with them. One was to understand how they are doing, getting feedback, also to understand if there was anything there was to improve. Was there any shortcomings? Were there any failures? Was there any area where they could do better? So this was his way to go meet his people, also interact with his clients, and he was constantly on the road, and he was often meeting his people, the clients, taking his car, ambassador car in those days, and going on the road for long tours. And that really helped because security business, we have seen, has usually faces a lot of labor problem. In many security companies, there is labor union problem. But in SIS, for the last 50 years, they've never had any labor union problem. And Ravindra Kishore Sinha used to very famously say कि union का क्या जरूरत है जब मैं हूँ. And what he meant was that when the time came for mobile phone, nearly everyone in SIS had his number. And even a security guy on the ground could call up Ravindra Kishore Sinha and talk to him, give his feedback, maybe register a complaint. And Ravindra Kishore Sinha would make a point that his people would address those complaints. So when the employees could directly interact with the management, with Ravindra Kishore Sinha and rest of the senior management, there was no need for a labor union to intervene between the two. So that was a very remarkable thing, and that ensured that SIS always fared better than its rivals because of this employee-friendly policies that it had internally.
Yeah, one more. I read the book, so I was thinking about it. So you mentioned, correct, the new CEO came, and also his son Rituraj also was working under the new CEO. And there are maybe thousands or maybe lakhs of companies, small companies, who are providing security services to many organizations. And I wanted to understand how they raised capital with private equity, because what was their sales pitch that they agreed to give money to this company. That's very interesting for me. Like, if you can shed more light, a bit light, like how they convince the private equity people to actually invest in one company where the investor knows, the VC knows that there are thousand companies like this, and the margins are not that there. Like for a product company, the margins could be, let's say, 15%, 20%, depending on what you are selling. Like if it's a premium product, but when you're talking about security company, there is a risk of cash flow being blocked by an employer, or a customer who is not paying up, and you also have the margins which are going to be in squeeze because there are a lot of companies doing the same thing. So if you can shed light, like what was their pitch and how they achieved this feat of having private equity and also again going to the stock market and getting listed.
Sure. So there was a period, like we discussed, where SIS would run out of money. And that's why Rituraj, when he came in, one of his main focus was to raise money. And he was based in Delhi, and he would often fly to Mumbai to meet bankers, with high net worth individuals, with investors. But no one had heard of SIS at that time. And like you said, there are thousands of security companies. Why would anyone want to meet SIS? So it often happened that sometimes he would get appointment, sometimes he won't get. Sometimes the appointment would get cancelled the moment, just when he was about to meet the person. So no one was really taking him seriously initially. So the big break, I would think, happened when after uh, SIS acquired a company in Australia. And this was a company which was 7 times bigger than SIS. And here SIS was helped in financing by State Bank of India, because SIS was a old-time client of State Bank of India. And through State Bank of India's SBI's financing, SIS was able to raise funds to acquire a company in Australia which was called Chubbs. It was a multinational company, so it was Chubbs security arm in Australia. And after it acquired, SIS turned around the company, and that success actually opened the gates for SIS. People came to know about SIS. That SIS was able to acquire a company in Australia, turn it around, and make that Australian company its cash cow. That really helped SIS and Rituraj and Uday Singh to get a lot of access to people. And it is after this acquisition that SIS also started a cash management business, facilities management business, and when they did all of this, and especially after this acquisition in Australia, that was the time when private equity investors also started showing interest in SIS, because by then SIS had already expanded all across India, which very few security companies had managed to do. And then slowly it was also getting into these other verticals. This expansion, acquisition in Australia, turning around that acquisition, and then getting into diversifying into other verticals, that really caught attention of investors, and that is how SIS was managed to get its private equity investment.
That's very interesting. That to the State Bank of India as a customer, because as a security provider with State Bank of India, you would have a lot of salary accounts. So,
That is right.
and there would be a lot of cash flow happening over the years. So they could trust that company to actually give them a loan. So, and now we'll go back to again one more issue, one more very important part of entrepreneurship. I think again, Prince. Okay, yeah. So, leadership. So I want to talk about leadership. You in your career of 22 years, you are working in business. So you would have met a lot of business leaders, managers, entrepreneurs. When you when you met Mr. Ravindra Kishore, and maybe talk to him, interact with him. What do you think as a business leader? Okay, and he was a business leader in 1970s, where making money was the most evil thing you can ever do. Okay, so from your perspective, how good a business leader he was, and what do you think his qualities which actually made him uh, go all the way and build this bigger organization?
Yeah, it's very interesting because, like I said, he was not from a business family. He hadn't done an MBA. He didn't even want to become an entrepreneur, but he started off because Jayaprakash Narayan said, "Why don't you help these army people?" And that's how he started, became an accidental entrepreneur. But if you look at the way he did his business, right from 1975 to 2000, 2002, before he handed over the business to Uday Singh and Rituraj, he took a lot of decisions that almost look like, it's someone who studied management. But it came very natural to him. So one was the training institute that we talked about, which no one else had done. He was also among the first to introduce computers in his company, not just for security company, even for other sectors. And this was also in the 1980s when computers were not common like they are today. Many people hadn't even seen a computer. But he brought in computer in the late 1980s to ensure that SIS is able to process its payroll fast, that it's able to create systems and processes, and is able to use technology to reduce errors and improve efficiency. So he was always open to new ideas, and he had the foresight to understand that technology is something that he can build his company on and expand also. So I thought that that was a very strong point of Ramendra Kishore Sinha, because not everyone has that kind of a foresight. Second was his eye for talent. SIS, even today, if you look at the top leadership of SIS, many of them started very low in the ladder and they all came up the ladder. He had an eye for talent, he would groom them. He was also able to attract talent from outside, and that became even more so after Rituraj and Uday Singh came in. So he had an eye for talent also. And he understood the importance of systems and processes in a company, which is also very unusual for someone who hadn't studied business or MBA, or who wasn't exposed to businesses before he started his own company. And that's why SIS was one of the first companies to go for ISO certification, go for SAP, ERP, which happened after Uday Singh came in. So this ability to understand that you need talent, you need technology, and you also need systems and processes to sustain your business and grow your business and make your business capable of growing. You may have ambition, but if your business is not capable uh, uh, to to hold that growth, it can collapse. But Ravindra Kishore Sinha had this innate understanding of how to do things. And that actually is remarkable for a person who came from Patna without any exposure to business or to business management fundamentals. So I thought that was very striking about Ravindra Kishore Sinha as an entrepreneur.
Okay, I'll ask one more question on this. So, like, you also would have actually known or met many business people in West, like America, Europe, or Australia, and you see, and you also would have known many business people in India. Is there a
Sure.
difference in terms of culture, in terms of perspective, in terms of how business is done? The Western style of capitalism and the Indian style of capitalism. So, like, do you see any difference in terms of mindset, the way we do business and the way they do business, or is it the same?
Yeah, it differs with people. It differs with entrepreneurs, with promoters. Often companies imbibe the culture and borrow the culture from the founders. And founders' own belief, working style, the way he empowers his employees, that slowly becomes the culture of the whole organization. And what we see in SIS is a reflection of what Ravinder Kishore Sinha was. And that differs from person to person. Uh, it often happens that uh, a company would have one set of culture when the promoter is there, but once the transition happens and when the promoter is out, that initial culture is sometimes lost. So it is very important when the transition happens from one entrepreneur to another, to from one generation to the second generation or the third generation, or when a family business professionalizes. So instead of family members, you get more professionals from outside to manage the business. How do you retain that culture? I think that is a serious issue for a lot of companies, for a lot of family businesses who are trying to scale and expand and diversify to other businesses. And like you said, it differs from one company to the other. I think the critical thing is to a balance between growth, because once a company starts focusing a lot on the growth and wants to grow very fast, that is the time when it loses out on the culture. That is the balance that SIS has been able to strike. And Rituraj, who is the second generation entrepreneur, Ravindra Kishore Sinha's son, he's realized that maintaining the company's culture is one of his top priority. So he uses every opportunity to, like his father, go meet people, travel across India and overseas, uh, conduct workshop with his people, talk to his senior leadership, or also talk to people on the ground. So he is doing his bit to make sure that this culture that defined SIS organization continues the way it is, and SIS doesn't lose out even as it expands, very exponentially. So that is, I think, is very important that Rituraj Sinha, as a second generation entrepreneur, has realized that. Often it happens that when the second or the third generation comes in, they don't have the same ethos or the same principles of the founder. But in SIS case, it's very, very good that Rituraj continues with the same principles that his father had.
Yes. So now we are going to come to a very exciting phase of our discussion. So we're going to talk about demonetization. I think it happened in
Correct.
2016 or something. I don't remember the date actually. Uh,
Yeah,
so
around that.
yeah, so around 2016, I think it happened. The date may be incorrect. So we had because it was SI was already into cash management. They were doing cash management business. Okay, as one of their
That's
verticals.
right.
So and you had the demonetization happen, okay, overnight when Modi ji came and said, okay, 500 notes will not be legal tender anymore from tomorrow onwards. Now, SIS was already into cash management, and if you can just narrate to us, and this is also there in the book as well, so it was a very exciting chapter for me as well to read. If you can give us how SIS management actually dealt with this very monumental step by the government of India, and how they actually learned and evolved by dealing with this thing, and how it impacted them over the long years, long term.
Sure, it was a very, very challenging time for SIS and for Rituraj. Like you said, it had already started this cash management vertical along with the Spanish company called Persugor. It was a joint venture that they had, and the Spanish company was, I think, continues to be among the largest companies in the world in cash management. So it came with a lot of software and understanding and know-how to India, and that's what it did with the joint venture with SIS. Now, when demonetization happened, it was shocking because no one was expecting something like this. Because suddenly, overnight, you had to take off the whole, 500 rupee, 2000 rupee out of the system. So imagine there are, tens and thousands of ATMs across the country, and you need to take that money out. And this money, all of this money, the banks don't have space to keep. So where do you keep all this money? So there was, and SIS luckily had very big vaults where they stored this money, and they had a system to count it, keep a ledger, make proper accounts of it. But the challenge was not just to take the money out, but the government also introduced new currencies. So new notes with new dimensions. So if you remember the 100 rupee note, the 50 rupees note, they look different from the earlier currencies. Now, if the currency is different, then the cassette that is there in the ATM, which holds the currency, that also has to be changed. So, which meant that not only did SIS or the other cash management companies in India, they had to at first take away the old notes, they had to change the cassette, and then load these cassette with the new currencies. And imagine there was a lot of public anger against this because people weren't able to withdraw money. They would stand in queue on the ATM and the ATM would run out of cash. So the priority for everyone was to ensure that this whole process gets over as soon as possible. To SIS credit, and Rituraj at that time was one of the industry leaders also who was heading the Association for Cash Management Companies. He licensed and engaged, they created a war room along with RBI and ministry officials. There was huge amount of coordination. It also helped that SIS was among the largest cash management companies at that time. Almost one third of the fleet that we see on the ground, all those trucks which are handling or are transporting cash, one third of those belong to SIS. So SIS played a pivotal role in making ensuring that this whole process of taking the old money out, replacing the cassette, and loading the new currency happened in the time that it did, and it was pretty efficient. If you look back, within a matter of I don't remember correctly, but within a matter of days and perhaps a week, the ATMs across the country were able to then give cash in the new currency. It was a monumental challenge, and I think SIS, ably led by the SIS Prosegur joint venture and Rituraj, played a very, very big role in ensuring that this demonetization exercise went on well.
And now we're going to come to next stage, that is UPI. So UPI was introduced, and now we see less and less of cash being used. Like I would, for last I think 3 4 years, I have maybe handled cash maybe 4 5 times in 2 3 years.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
now, as a traditional business, now it has become a professional business. It has acquired many companies. It has operations
Yeah.
across the globe. And now, with business as it evolves, correct, some part of your portfolio will not be making as money, or they will not be adding to the additional to the cash flow itself, the net cash flow. So this UPI thing happened, correct? And cash management was a very significant chunk of their business in terms of
Correct.
revenue, in terms of manpower they have employed. And with the advent of UPI and it becoming like as water, cheap as water in terms of using UPI to pay for anything, now how it they evolve over time, and how they are now like looking at the various different verticals to actually expand their services, so that this cash management business may not be as lucrative as it is as it was. So if you can shed a bit light on that, how this organization is evolving over time to actually adapt to new circumstances, new challenges that it faces.
Yeah, sure. So you're correct. We all use now either cards or the UPI apps to make payments, transfer money. And what's happened is in cash management also, handling cash is not the only business that they have. One, they load and unload cash from ATMs. They also transport cash from the banks to the clients and from clients to the banks. For instance, there are so many metro stations where you make payments either through UPI or you make cash payment. That cash every day at the end of the day has to be counted and then sent to the bank. That banking service also SIS does. SIS does a lot of other banking at the doorstep services. It has evolved. It also handles a lot of gold. So it also transports a lot of gold and it also transports a lot of valuable goods, high value goods from one place of the country to the other. In fact, during COVID, there were a lot of instances where SIS fleet was used to transport, both COVID-related merchandise and otherwise. So they have diversified their offering accordingly. So today, cash management doesn't mean just handling cash in the ATM, but there are many other functions with the banks, with the other corporate clients, where cash or otherwise or gold is to be handled, or services of other kinds of other payments are to be done. So SIS helps in that, and this business continues to be profitable. And in fact, it is also going to be listed. So SIS is a listed company, and now the second company in the group which will be listed is this cash management business.
Okay, so actually, I was about to come to the last part of our conversation regarding the COVID pandemic that took place, and so
Yeah,
and we know, correct? So the all the physical things, factories, shops, restaurants were all closed. So they did not need security guards to guard them, or maybe did
that's
not
true.
enough people to go there. So how this professional management, new management of SIS, led by Rituraj and the new CEO, how they tackled it as an organization, and how they managed it, and how they're able to survive it. That's the most important thing, because they are a people business. They employ physical human beings who go and work them. So, and now if those people are not required, or not enough are required, then why the customer will pay you, the organization, and how you will pay them and retain them. So, like, if you can give us a glimpse of how they managed it and able to survive this storm.
Sure. Uh, COVID, the pandemic was almost a make or break moment for SIS, because, like you clearly said, the basic work that SIS did was to provide security personnel for factories, for mines, for industries, for hotels, for offices, for malls, for railway stations. Now, but in the pandemic, everything came to a standstill. Offices were closed, people stopped going to offices, schools were closed, airports were closed, trains were not running, hotels were closed. So, which meant that there was no need for SIS services. And it almost came to a complete standstill. And in fact, Rituraj was very worried because every second or third month he needed almost 400 crore to pay his people. That was the salary bill in 3 months that SIS had. Now, suddenly the business came to a halt and there was no need for his services. So, from where will the cash come? So, it was a big worry for Rituraj and all the other senior leadership at SIS. But what happened is that SIS and rest of the security industry, led by Rituraj and then Mr. Sinha also, they were able to convince the government to classify security and facility management as an essential service, which meant that security people could move around within a city. They can go to their site and work. And this classification of security and facilities and cash management as essential service all was the turnaround that the company needed. And in fact, SIS went beyond its way to help people get hospital beds, get them access to hospitals, because SIS had a lot of hospital clients. So it helped a lot of people getting beds in hospital, getting oxygen cylinders. You remember that those times there was a lot of shortage of oxygen. It also, SIS also helped people move from one place to the other. Its clients who were stuck in one place in the country, SIS helped its clients, people, to move from one place to the other. So it almost kind of reiterated the importance of the service that SIS was providing for its clients. While it began like a crisis, it turned out to be a success. And that was something that was exceptional that SIS had. You remember that because of COVID, the GDP contracted and the GDP fell. But SIS at the end of the year was actually able to expand and increase its revenues. So, and then SIS also helped its people. I mean, there was a huge immunization drive for vaccines. Almost 5 lakh vaccines were administered to SIS employees and their family members. SIS employees who fell ill, they were given financial assistance. So SIS as an organization also made sure that its people were well taken care of. So I think SIS as an organization, as an and as a business, it emerged stronger after the pandemic.
Yes, so because every crisis also has an opportunity for everybody to actually excel and grow out of your old skin, as we say.
That's true.
So it took that crisis and made it, make it into an opportunity, and by which they grown their revenue, and then they actually tested how strong their process was, how the organization skills was. So that's why
Correct.
actually I wanted to actually discuss this, because a lot of people are actually afraid. A lot of people who are, let's say, thinking of doing a business, but
Hmm.
they will think, okay, if this doesn't work, then I am done. Correct. So there is no other way to
Yeah.
do. But being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur means that every crisis is also an opportunity. It's how
Yeah.
you look at it that actually matters, and your skills, your ethics, and overall your leadership qualities, how you lead people. Okay, that is the most important part of it. So I am done with my questions. It was really a pleasure talking to you to understand, okay, uh, the entrepreneurial spirit of Mr. Ravindra Kishore Sinha, and how his and his organization, his skills as a leader has transformed a sector which is actually very unorganized. We see a lot of also see exploitation is done by small companies, other things happen, but he has made it a ray of hope for many people. So congratulations on your second book. I hope that
Thank you
people
so much.
read this book and also take inspiration from this book, and also start their own businesses. We have seen now we have a startup culture. So he was a kind of a doyen, or maybe say a path breaker, by founding a startup in 1974 when nobody thought of it.
That's
he
true.
was the he was the first startup person in India in so many ways. So thank you very
That's
much,
true.
Prince, for coming to us, and hope maybe someday others we will talk about something else regarding businesses in our podcast. So thank
Sure.
you very much. Namaste.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and thanks for patiently listening to me. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
And do you have any last words for the audience, so who are listening to this now or maybe later when the recording is over? Like, if you have any message from your end to
Oh
the
yes,
book.
yes. So I think the SIS story is a business book. It's a story about a company, about an entrepreneur, about two generations of entrepreneur. It also has a lot of about the evolution of business in India, because the way SIS had its evolution, it almost like the evolution of Indian economy. So if you want to know how Indian economy also developed over these last 50 years, this is a great book to understand that. It's a book for entrepreneurs, also for professionals to understand how to scale a business, how to professionalize a business. It is also about how to acquire companies and integrate them successfully. So there are a lot of lessons and a lot of threads to this book. And eventually, I think it's an excellent, very colorful story about an entrepreneur and his company. And I think if you just like a good story, this is a great book to read. So there is something for everyone in this book.
Yeah, as people say, correct, the rags to riches story. So people always like the
That's right.
underdog winning and making it big in the city. So it's a real
Absolutely.
story, not a story which is written. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you
Dhanyavad.
so much. Thank you. Bye bye.